Fans Forum. We invite you to join us every Thursday. If you got questions, we've got answers. John, fire away, pick and choose maybe 4 or 5, and let's see what the fans have got to ask us.
All right. So a couple of things here, kind of scrolling through the list. Here's a good one from Angel Barragan Jr. San Diego is a forgiven city and the fan base. So I think Fernando Tatis Jr. learned his lesson and will redeem himself.
He's got plenty of time. That's a great comment, Angel. He's got plenty of time to redeem himself, but he's going to have to subscribe to the way he lives his life. And the way he lives his life going forward is going to be dictated by the San Diego Padres. Because if he has another incident, he puts that contract in jeopardy. If he has another drug-related incident, he's facing a year's suspension, which really impacts his Major League Baseball career. But if he does the right things, and like I said at the onset of our podcast, actions now replaces words. If he does, I agree with you wholeheartedly. He'll be back in the good graces of Padre fans. But he's got a lot of work to be done. And I'll tell you, there's an intangible thing here, John. 8 months. I mean, he's out of this mix for 8 months. He can work out with the team, but he has to be out of the stadium by 5 o'clock. He can't travel. So he's really limited as to being a member of the organization itself. But 8 months is a long, long time. But there'll be rehab because he's going to have the shoulder surgery almost immediately. And there'll be 5 to 6 months of rehab there. But yeah, Angel, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, here's another question from Steve Zach Botsford. Do you think the Padres got any shot at a wild card slot?
This is so hard, Steve. They got this thing jammed into reverse gear. Like I just said, the Padres are under 500 since early June, and the Padres are not hitting at all, and that's a big issue. I think the Padre pitching staff is fatigued. I'm alarmed that Musgrove has gone 10 straight starts without a victory. He was 8-0. He's 8-5. Blake Snell, as dominant as he is for 3 or 4 innings, is a 5-inning pitcher. Mike Clevenger's a 5-inning pitcher. Mm-hmm. They put an awful lot, John, on Yu Darvish. It's just going to be a huge challenge. And the guys behind him, and that's the thing that's scary, is St. Louis has got Arenado and Goldschmidt and a bunch of young guys that are hitting the daylights out of the ball. And now Bryce Harper's come back. He'd been gone with his broken thumb for a month, and he's just pounding the ball. And here comes Philadelphia. Milwaukee may have traded themselves out of the wild card race by the Josh Hader situation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Padres still have an opportunity to do this, but that schedule, pal, they got 9 more games with the Dodgers. And do you think the Dodgers are taking their foot off the pedal? Because the Dodgers want home field advantage for the whole party.
I mean, did you see the comment? It was Oral Hershiser was broadcasting the Dodger-Brewers game, and they were talking about how the Dodgers were losing and they were disappointed. But Hershiser said, well, at least when the Brewers win, it hurts the Padres. And you're like, wait a minute. Do we have a rivalry or do we not have a rivalry? What do you think?
We have a rivalry, and there's guys on both street corners in the working media that make it a rivalry, and the players are getting excited about the rivalry. But, until you beat them, until you take them away, take them out of it, they're still the dominant team. And what they've done this year, like we alluded to early in our podcast, what they've done this year with 4 starting pitchers out, is incredible. Stunning. I mean, it'd be 50 games above 500. Next question.
Well, there's another comment from Steve. Love your facts, Hacksaw. The best. You are bleeping brilliant.
I'll sign that memo. You are correct. You bought into everything I said, and what I said was true. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So here's another comment from Angel. It's going to get awkward in Brooklyn. Do you think Kevin Durant will still be a net by the 2023 NBA All-Star game?
He owes them 4 years. And that owner is getting accolades for taking back control of the franchise. So I don't think there's any doubt. Now, whether they play together, whether they win together, or whether they implode remains to be seen, because Kyrie Irving is an issue off the court. And then you got all the things swirling around with Ben Simmons, who hasn't proven he's a mature basketball player, might be a talented player. But that misery that he put the 76ers through last year that caused the issue is a big, big issue.
Here's another person chiming in. Robert says, the Padres look so anemic batting. How come we aren't hearing from the hitting coach?
I don't quite understand what's going on in that dugout. I mean, there's been an awful lot said about Ruben Niebla, the pitching coach, who I think has had pretty good impact on most of these starting pitchers. But there's not been an awful lot of critique of the hitting coach. But it's got to come from the players. The players have to solve this, and they've not solved this. And these statistics are just god awful. As I said at the onset of our podcast, they're hitting 231 at Petco Park. How can you be hitting 231 at home?
That's unbelievable.
Hitting 242 on the road. And I've never seen a stat like this, Rob. 106 with runners in scoring position in the last 10 games. And it's been like that all year. And Manny Machado's had a great individual season, but he can't do it by himself. The most positive thing to me has been the involvement of Ha-Seong Kim as shortstop with his glove and now with his bat.
Yeah.
That's been pretty impressive. The most disappointing thing to me, a lot of names, and let's check those boxes off. Trent Grisham, Will Myers, anybody behind home plate. They've just got a lot of deficiencies. And yeah, hitting coach, that comes under scrutiny by the time we get to the end of the season. And even if you get to the playoffs, if you get the wild card, this is the big issue. You're going to have to go play in Atlanta, or you're going to have to go play the New York Mets. And if you win a wild card slot, you have to play on the road. And those guys are going to get all three of the games there. And that's why I said it was so critical that they finished first in the wild card race when the Dodgers ran away from them, finished first in the wild card. And they obviously have not. So listen, explain to the fans about the Fans Forum and how they can latch onto this and where they can catch our podcast that we post every Thursday.
So the podcast here every Thursday at 3:00, Hacksaw's Headlines. We're doing the live stream on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter. So if you're watching on any of those platforms, you can see it live. The recorded version, of course, is going to be on Hacksaw's Facebook page, his Twitter page, and his YouTube channel. Now, the audio-only version of this podcast you can get on all of your popular podcast platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, what were the other ones? Stitcher. We're on every one of them except Apple Podcasts. We're waiting for them to approve Hacksaw's Headlines. It's going to be happening any moment now, but we're getting a ton of views. The traffic lead on the YouTube channel has been unbelievable. The views, the downloads, the comments. I mean, this has really taken off.
Here's what I request. 2 favors from those of you that are joining us. Text, email, tweet your friends to check out our podcast. And secondly, check my website. I have a written website. It's a ton of sports every day of the week. It's posted late in the evening. It's there the entire next day. It's the best 15 minutes in radio. It's Hacksaw's Headlines and in my one man's opinion column. And it's my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Hey, thanks for being with us. John and I are always glad to talk sports with you. We'll see you next Thursday. Thank you for joining our show weekly.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.